You're listening to a Benstown and McVeigh Media Podcast Network production. Run It Again is an inside look at the players, the coaches, and the business of sports with former NFL star and broadcaster Ron Pitts.
And 2 minutes later, I was back in the same Oklahoma drill that I got the concussion from.
And the mastermind behind the greatest show on turf, Coach Mike Martz.
And we want to force him into a vanilla defense and go to work.
Run It Again is a hard-hitting, no BS podcast that connects you directly to the source. This is Run It Again.
How you doing, man?
Doing good.
Yeah,
I'm excited about the Super Bowl here.
Yeah, well, let's go right to it. What excites you the most about this matchup between the Los Angeles Rams and the Cincinnati Bengals?
It's such an even matchup to me, even though
the
Rams are so loaded, I guess you'd say, with talent on both sides of the ball. They really are, but the Bengals just won't go away. You know, I think Chase and Burrow, that connection is so dynamic and so unusual. It'll be very difficult to slow them down. And then I think there's two factors in this game, Ron, that are probably unspoken to some extent. Like you and I talked about, and you made the comment about Higgins.
Mm-hmm.
He's the X factor for the Bengals. And then I think
T. Higgins,
and then I think Cam Akers is the X factor for the Rams. I think those are the two guys that have a chance to make a huge difference in whether they win that game or not.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at some numbers here, and the number that jumps out to me the fastest is sacks. The Bengals offense 30th in the NFL in terms of allowing sacks, meaning they take a lot of sacks. Burrow goes down a lot. And the Rams are third in the NFL in sacks. It's sacking people, sacking quarterbacks. So, you know, I look at it, I just don't know how they're going to block the Rams up front.
Well, I think one of the things that the Rams will do, first of all, I think they'll try to grind it out a little bit in terms of
run the ball. Yeah.
They'll run to light. Those defensive ends are very light, and everybody's tried to do that. And the people have early in the season were very effective with it. You know, I think the Rams have got a chance of going right with immediately a 5-man front. Put Robinson in the group, you know, with those two outside ends, so they have basically a 5-down look. They've done that before. The danger, of course, in that is, you know, is on the outside there with the wide receiver with Chase. But then the matchup there, of course, for the Rams is obvious, and you just move the corner with them, you know. And I think that would be unique for the Rams. They would absolutely clobber that offensive line if they went 5 down. They just would. The offensive line is not very good.
Yeah. That'll be interesting. And like you made a point there. They don't go away. The Bengals, I mean, I don't know how many games now. Okay, you know, they started off, went to had the Raiders there at home, beat them, then went to Tennessee, and a lot of people figured, you're not going to win this one. You know, they're too good, and they've got Derrick Henry back. And, you know, they hung in there. And this team, I noticed, they can get behind, but they're comfortable playing from behind and coming back.
Doesn't seem to bother them, does it? And I think that's a great credit to the quarterback. I think that's one of the things that makes him exceptional. There's a lot of things, actually, but right now, including Brady and Aaron Rodgers and all of them, I don't know of anybody else in the league that will stand in there better and make the throw and take the hit like he does. He is so dynamic under pressure. And in those games where he's come from behind, he's made these throws with guys hanging on him and just about gets splattered. And he gets the ball out so quickly. And he's such a good decision maker. I think he's hard to get to at the end of the game when he's really, you know, I think he just gets better as the game goes, to be honest with you.
Yeah, right. Sacked more than any other quarterback in the NFL. Or was tied for a second there toward the end of the season. So that, you know, you can't say he's not used to getting hit. So he's used to getting hit.
Yeah, he is. I just asking a quarterback that's played the Bengals, that's the last thing they do is, you know, bring in offensive linemen. But I think the biggest thing, too, is, of course, the turnovers will always be a differential. You know, this always makes a big difference in these games. But I do think that it comes down to quarterback on quarterback, which one plays the best.
Yeah. Does it surprise you that the Rams are ranked 25th in the NFL in rushing, even though Cam Akers has come on strong here late, him along with Sony Michel. But the Bengals defense, very good at stopping the run, and they're 5th in the NFL. So this could turn into, which I sort of think there's a part of McVay that likes this, to say, okay, we couldn't run, let's throw the hell out of the ball.
That's no question. And he knows that about himself. He said so. I read an article, it's pretty interesting, about a week ago. He, referring to the 49er game during the season. He went back, like we said he would. He went back and reflected on why they lost. And he really felt like he got too greedy trying to get chunks when it wasn't necessary. Just move the chains. And of course, the third time in the playoffs when they played him, that's what he did. They were patient. They moved the chains. And then some of those balls to Cup, all of a sudden he takes it and boom, he's gone to Beckham. And, that's the way, to me, that's what happens with really good teams with players like that. You have an ordinary pass play that turns into a big play just because of who they are and what they can do with the ball. And sometimes you don't have to create those big plays. It just happen with ordinary plays, and good teams are like that.
This is pretty ironic. The two stats are flipped. The Rams offense, 25th in rushing. The Bengals defense, 5th in stopping the run. But passing, the Rams offense, 5th in passing, the Bengals defense, 26th. So to your point, Mike, yeah, McVay might be saying, as much as he's trying to be patient, he might be saying, hey, I got to get after this ranked 26th Bengals pass defense.
I think you have to be careful with that. I really do, Ron, because that's when you make mistakes. That's when you get your 3 and outs, and that's when you get balls turned over. And that's what's happened to them. They've gotten greedy, and you go 1, 2, 3 kick, and all of a sudden you don't have. I think you'll see in the first series with them, they'll be very patient, move the chains, a 7 or 8 minute drive, and go all the way down. I think that's what they'll try to accomplish with that. And they'll get Akers involved, I think, heavily in this game. If he'll learn to protect that football, I think he's better than a good back. I think he can be exceptional.
Yeah. Mixon has done a lot for him lately here, coming down the stretch. Numbers wise, they don't really show it. Their rankings 23rd, and the Rams are pretty good at the rush now. They got better. Remember early in the year, Mike, they were struggling against anyone that really tried to pound on them, but they got a little bit better later on. So I think that numbers has
I think
picked
we're on
up
the
there.
teams that really run the ball well and make an attempt to stay with the running game, they've had a hard time with.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like the 49ers, for instance, they're so patient with it. And those teams that will do that, they've worn them down, so to speak, in the second half. Tennessee, those kinds of teams can do that to you. I think, though, what the Rams have done against the run, the teams that want to run the ball against them, they've got into that 5-down kind of a look. And then they've changed some of the run stunts that you do, the TTs and some of those things up front that you do to kind of, create havoc for that offensive line. It doesn't take much to create havoc for that offensive line from Cincinnati. They're just not very good.
Oh, boy. Yeah. And did they fix any parts of that? Remember last year you said, hey, come on, you're going to get this kid killed. And Burrow went out of the game 10th game of the season, around week 10.
They're bad. They're better than they were a year ago. Arguably, they are better. But, I think in the offseason here, getting ahead of ourselves here, I guess, but I think the premium for them is they've got to come out, whether it's in the free agency, in the draft, they've got to get a bunch of offensive linemen that can help them, because you have a future Hall of Fame receiver and quarterback here, and they've not had that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you have to, for your team to be great and good in the future, you've got to protect him. You got to keep him standing up, and fine, they got there this year and all that, and we'll see what happens in the Super Bowl. But man, I tell you, you're not going to have very long if you don't improve that offensive line.
Yeah, this is a case where the receiver, Jamar Chase, the quarterback, and they've lost a tight end, Azuma. That's a big loss.
That's a big
case,
loss.
and the run game. This is a case where those guys are hiding the imperfections of the offensive line. I don't know if I've seen an offensive line this inconsistent get this far.
Well, you didn't watch the Bears in the NFC Championship game when I was there.
I did.
Yeah,
back when Jay Cutler, you were coordinating that.
Good thing Jay could run around pretty good because he's running for his life. But
oh man,
this is a bad offensive line. I think they're a good run block line. I think they do a good job rushing the football, and I think they really work hard at that, and they're very good at it. I really do. I think the offensive line rushing the football, but here's what happens to a group like that. When you get a black eye in the on TV in front of the whole nation like they did with those sacks, there's a different attitude with that group inside. It shakes you up pretty good, and you're not going to let that happen again too.
Yeah. We're going to move on here in a second and talk about some other happenings around the league. But first, a couple things I noticed on the schedules. I'm looking at the Bengals schedule, and they can't stop talking about how this is a home game for the Rams and how wonderful this is and how lovely this is and yada yada. It feels like I'm watching a movie, something on Netflix. But I'm looking at the Bengals schedule, and the Bengals had a scheduling quirk here, glitch, if you will. They had 3 straight away games, and I look around. If you look around at other NFL schedules, Mike, there might be a couple teams here and there. It might be like 2 or 3 teams a year that'll have that. Not many. And I just wonder. And they closed out the season with 3 of the last 4 on the road. Okay, so those 3 away games came earlier in the year. Then they closed out 3 in the last 1. Does that help a team in a situation like this?
It sure does.
Yeah,
sure it does. When you get used to playing on the road and you're winning, then traveling and playing on the road doesn't mean much to you. I think the first week in the Super Bowl, they're back there, of course, in their own environment. And I think that helps them in their preparation for this game. But when they come out here, everything's in. They'll have some practice work here this week here, but I think they're used to it. You adjust to it. I think it's a very good thing for them.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of things on their behalf that people don't realize. I think the fact that they are such an underdog, and nobody's talking about them winning this game, and the fact they are so good and they've come from behind against good teams so many times. It's, if you're that head coach, you're talking about no respect out of anybody. Nobody expects us to win. You're playing with house money. Let's just go turn it loose kind of a thing,
Yeah, that's the feeling I get. I mean, the vibe is, this will be a rollover. Let's watch Burrow. He's good, and Chase, but yeah, no one expects the Rams to not win this game.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of wrong, because I think when this thing comes about, we'll see. But I think that Cincinnati's got a heck of a chance to win this game.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you. I think it's going to be tough.
Now, when you look at the 2 rosters, the rosters for the Rams on both sides of the ball is an all-star roster. Yeah. You know how that goes, but it just takes a couple of guys to make a play here and there. And the one thing they can do up front is they can rush the football with that offensive line.
Yeah. Now look at this. Remember how the Kansas City game started off? Well, when I mentioned it's Kansas City game, the Tennessee game for Cincinnati. Those were games where at one point you said, "No, they're gonna be blown out of this thing." But
well, I thought
in there.
I thought Kansas City was going to put 50 on them after.
Remember that? Yeah.
But when they didn't score at halftime, when they fouled that thing up at halftime, I thought, that always comes back to bite you. It just does. You get all the way down there, you screw it up there, you lose the clock, boom, you got no points.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
They just keep coming at you.
That's right. All right, man, a couple coaching changes here. We'll come back to wrap up a little more Super Bowl stuff here later, but a couple coaching changes here. Some make sense, as always, and some don't. So let's go down this list here. Our producer, Roy Hamilton, was adept enough, as he always is, to shoot me this list here of the most up-to-date changes. And I'm going to start with the Chicago Bears. All right, Matt Eberflus. He was a Colts defensive coordinator, and he will be replacing Matt Nagy as head coach. Your thoughts on that one?
Well, I think it's good. I think they'll always have to have a defensive head coach there. I think that's just what the family wants. They want.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a theme that family wants in how they play football. They want to play great defense. When I was there, Ron, 80% of salary was on defense, and offensively they want to rush the football and maybe throw it a few times, but they leave the grass about that long in the stadium, and that's just what they want, and that's their key to success in their mind, and it's not going to change.
Yeah, that old NFC Central division. You remember when that used to be the old NFC
right? They
season.
keep rerunning the '85 season. They want, you mentioned '85 in Chicago, and everybody starts crying. So it's just they want to go back and relive that. They're just not playing today's football.
They want to relive Mike Ditka and the cigar and a couple F-bombs at a press conference, and that's real heartland, Midwest,
Buddy Ryan defense,
American football, right?
Buddy Ryan, McMahon threw maybe 20 passes a game, maybe, and they rushed the football.
Boy, Dad used to tell me some stories about the Bears when they'd play the Bears, where there'd be more cheap shotting going on and crap going on. And back then, life was a little simpler. You get cheap shotted, ref might see it. He'd say, "Shut up and get back and huddle." Okay.
Yeah. Here's the thing I know about cheap shots. So that stuff's on film.
Oh, sure is.
And everybody sees it, and there's a big time payback, buddy.
There is.
Just happens.
But that was his point.
Don't let that go. Yeah.
No, but that was his point, Mike. The players handled everything. He talked about how his guys used to cheap shot Mike Ditka. And Mike would never say anything. He said, "Oh, Mikey would never say anything, but somewhere in that game, Mikey would get the guy back."
Sure he would.
And there it was.
The rest of the game, you're just waiting for that opportunity to take your shot,
Yeah, that was football. Boy, it made more sense to me in some ways. Anyways, the Houston Texans, Lovie Smith. Boy, so walk me through this one. You bring David Culley in, and obviously you made him a replacement or a placeholder. And now he's out of the building unless he gets retained by Lovie. And then you bring in Lovie Smith. Okay. Lovie's, where's this going to go?
Nowhere. It's not going to go anywhere. And I he worked for me. I hired him as coordinator in the league, and then I worked for him at Chicago, and he's really a wonderful man. But I think his staff, his weakness is his hiring of his staff. He's never had a real strong staff. My year there, he had a real strong defensive staff. I'm curious as to who he's going to hire. I think that's really important for him. I really thought Eric Bieniemy would have got that job. I'm surprised he hasn't gotten a job. And that's not a knock on Lovie, but Lovie's got to do a better job of hiring around him than he did at Tampa and Illinois and those places. He's hired a lot of friends and things, and it just hasn't worked out.
Yeah, had a stint there in Illinois for a while. At 64 years old, you start to wonder probably around that time how many more chances you're going to get. Now, remember, Lovie was on the staff there at Houston. He was the assistant head coach and defensive coordinator.
Yeah, so I think they always had that in their hand, and they went through their interviews, and I don't know how that thing fell apart so bad, but it did, and he was the last guy standing, so to speak. So, and maybe he's a good guy, and he's a good coach and all that stuff, but he's not hired well.
Yeah, and that's right. You said last man standing. I just wonder where this organization is going. They went through the Deshaun Watson thing and maybe still going through it. Okay, so now they've brought in another coach, but this coach was on the staff of the guy you just fired. What's the signal you're sending out to ticket holders?
You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
A lot of that sometimes especially if they hire headhunters in the process.
Oh yeah.
Which it sounds like they may have done. Yeah, they may have done that.
The good old.
In the end, they didn't have anybody. So it's people that don't know football making those decisions. And we've said, I guess it was weeks ago when we talked about the process, and whoever's making that decision has got to know enough football to know, what it takes to get it done, so they can see it in the guy and the interview. And Lovie certainly is a good head coach and will do a lot of good things. He's a good guy and all that stuff, but he just hasn't hired very well.
Yeah. Well, here's one I like. This one makes a lot of sense to me. Doug Peterson, who's been out for a year or so. He goes to Jacksonville. Now you got a real coach down there, a real NFL coach.
Yeah, and Doug will do a good job. I think that whole situation in Philadelphia, like I said, just got sideways, and there was a disconnect there between he and the front office, and that happens, and it's time to change, and this is good for him. I think he'll do a good job there.
Yeah, there's been a couple disconnects up there in Philly.
It's an easy place to get disconnected.
Jeez, boy.
Yeah, there has been.
With Andy, he left town, then wins a Super Bowl.
So Andy did more there than anybody's ever done there.
Oh, without question.
And did more with less there than probably anybody in the league.
Yeah. It's a strange deal because, and we've talked about this many a time, but I'm not over the Nick Foles situation. I don't know why you run him out of town. I know what they thought they had with Wentz, but I mean, just some other decisions that are made. Just very.
Well, here's the problem: is those decisions weren't made by him. When those directives are given to you.
I know that wasn't Andy. Yeah, right.
So what happens is, if you're not making those decisions that affect who plays and who doesn't play, when that starts reaching in from the front office, then you've got no chance in that organization. It's just not going to end up good.
Yeah, it's coming from up top. Yeah, I didn't mean to insinuate that was Andy Reid. That's management all the way down for sure. So he'll be down there. He'll take over for Urban Meyer, and that was another disaster. Poor Darrell Bevell. He's like the national interim head coach. I think it's 2 years in a row now he's been an interim, so he's getting good at that.
He needs to get a job as a head job. Yeah, he needs that.
Yeah, and he's been to the big dance. He's a good play caller, so this could be interesting. Josh McDaniels, man, Josh, remember Josh went to Denver years ago. Seems like forever ago, as a head coach for like a year or two. And then he ran back to New England.
He was not ready for it.
No. Then he ran back to New England.
Yeah. So he's just kind of an immature guy at the time. I remember he started off 6-0. And after that sixth game at home, he was doing laps around the field, shaking hands with the fans and stuff. It was kind of strange. And from that point on, things went south for him. He lost like 7 after that in a row or whatever it was. And the time spent with Belichick now should have really helped him.
Yeah. Moral of that story is don't do laps early in the season.
Well, no, he just thought they were winning because of him. He lost that. It's just very really immature, and that's where he was at the time. I think then he was a coordinator at the Rams for a year and someplace else, and he just kind of bounced around a little bit, didn't have any success, and then he went back to the Patriots.
Not every Belichick disciple,
none of them have
goes anywhere and does anything.
None of them panned out. No,
I mean, my gosh, and I have to bring this up because we're talking Belichick tree. Brian Flores, Brian Flores went down there to Miami, put together 2 winning seasons, and then that dissolved, and now he files a racial discrimination suit, and wow, I mean that blew up in a hurry, and along with other former Patriot assistants, it never seemed to quite go. What was a guy? Oh, Mangini. Remember Mangini?
Yeah,
one that went to the Jets, and then he ended up diming on the Patriots about the whole filming thing.
Yeah.
So, wow.
Yeah, you just when you're with a situation like that where the head coach is so strong and makes so many of the decisions involved, and they make very little contribution in some of the player stuff and whatnot, then, they weren't paying attention when they were there, I think.
They weren't saying, right. Or one guy clearly runs the show and everyone else.
Well, they didn't watch. They didn't learn they didn't watch and learn. They just felt like they had it. Yeah. It's just like we should tell players all the time, Ron, and you can relate to this. You should tell players, when you say, I got it, you don't have it. You're done.
No, 3 worst words in football. I got it. Yeah. No, you don't have anything. Well, we'll stand by on that.
You haven't arrived.
Right. So he's going out to Vegas.
I think he'll do a good job. Goes. I think he's a different coach now than he was in his other opportunity. I think he'll do well out there.
So what happened to Rich Bisaccia? I thought Rich Bisaccia had earned the right to coach that team next year and 2 years after that. I thought Rich Bisaccia had stepped in a hurricane of just biblical proportions and did an outstanding job, took the team to the playoffs. And then what happened?
I think Mark Davis happened. I think what he saw in Mark was not, he just didn't seem as the future. He just felt like he could get better, and the attention involved with having to hire a coach. He likes that stuff. He likes being in the limelight.
Do they look at him like a kind of a John Gruden? A little on the younger side. I mean, he's not as young as he once was. He's a little older now, but do they look at him like that? I'm just trying to figure this out.
Look at who?
At Josh McDaniels.
No, I don't think so. No, no.
I
don't think so. I think they want what they did up at the consistency and the discipline and all that stuff.
Oh, I see. Yeah, right. They want that. Yeah.
And the system, they want that, and I think he'll bring that to them.
Accountability. Yeah. From the time you get right. No, that's tricky because more guys are getting in trouble off the field there, and that's they've had enough of that this year. So they've got to fix that, and that's going to be a hard place to fix it, but it can be done.
Well, he's been there now so long that the way Belichick does things obviously has got to rub off on him to some extent.
Right.
And that's probably what they're looking for, the Belichick type of discipline, and when you go to there, they change you, you don't change them, kind of a thing.
Yeah. All right, here's one that's a little interesting. Mike McDaniel, the 49ers offensive coordinator. He goes to Miami, replaces Flores.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to think about that. I
don't either.
I don't know anything about Mike. I don't know how much he was really involved with play calling and putting together the offense. I really don't.
Yeah, he comes out of the Mike Shanahan tree now from Washington back in the day there, with made LaFleur, Sean McVay, that whole group of guys. So that's one part of it. The question now is, can he communicate with the quarterback? Because apparently that was a problem. No. And now that surprised me, Mike, a little bit, because I had never heard that the quarterback had a problem like that. But apparently there's some kind of problem. Either it was Flores or it's the quarterback, right? Now Flores is gone, so now we're going to see who it really was.
Well, I think Flores is a pretty strong personality.
Yeah.
And probably didn't the quarterback, coming out of college, it was probably a culture shock for him.
But wait a minute, Mike, he went to school with maybe one of the strongest personalities in all of college football in Nick Saban.
Yes and no, though. It really, he's the CEO of that team down there on a down-to-down basis and all that stuff. He's accountable to it's just different in the league. The head coach is much more involved with the players and what goes on than down there in Alabama. The head coach it's about recruiting and sending the team in the right direction, talking to the team and amping them up and all that stuff. So I think with Miami, I think, if you're an offensive coach as he is, there'll be a one-on-one relationship that he didn't have down in Alabama, certainly with the head coach.
Yeah.
Because it's an everyday deal. It's just like when I was coaching, Kurt and I would meet every day for 2.5 hours in the morning, talk about their reads and stuff. So, and that's what happens. That's what, so you don't know how much he was, whether it was the head coach or whether it was him, how much he's learned and if he's ready or not, you just don't know.
Oh man, interesting. Have you heard anything about Tonga Baloa being a problem in that vein?
I just don't think he's very good.
Interesting.
I just don't think he's very good. I just don't think he's good enough, Ron, to win with. I think he's a streaky guy, but ultimately, I just don't think he's good enough.
And maybe Flores called him out on that.
No, he knew that. That's why I benched him.
Yeah.
He just didn't think he was good enough. And then he had to play him, and he got on that run there at the end, kind of proved him wrong to some extent. But I just ultimately don't think he's good enough.
Yeah. Moving on, Minnesota Vikings pick up Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell is going to coach in the Super Bowl here for the Rams as the OC. That's Zimmer. Zimmer lasted quite a while there. From 14 to 21. I guess that's quite a while in these days in the NFL. But in the end, it's just they couldn't manage any consistency offensively, and he was a strong defensive guy. Zimmer was, but offensively, they had some weapons. I don't think losing Diggs and watching the Bills have success with that helped the cause either.
No, I think though Zim definitely had his thumb on the offense.
Yeah.
I know enough about those guys and how, and just talking to some of the guys that have been there, there's some parameters that he wants you to work under, period. So he
Yeah.
keeps you under an umbrella. That whole thing was just waiting to explode and break out offensively, and it just couldn't, just couldn't get it done. And I think this is probably the best matchup of all the new hires. I think he'll have an immediate impact up there. I think the Vikings will be very, very good.
Okay, now what happens to the quarterback?
Well, I hope he stays. I would
does
think
he
he
stay?
stays. Oh, sure,
Yeah.
he's really a good player, Ron. And
Okay.
I think that's the other thing. I think he knew Zimmer's keeping him kind of under, kind of down, so to speak, and not letting them just break out and do some of the things that they like to do. He's very conservative. He wants you to be very conservative on offense, and he just got tired of that.
Yeah. 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 So Kirk Cousins, Kirk Cousins has a lot of upside, but very efficient. He finished with some top numbers in the NFL. He really did, even though the record didn't reflect that.
But
And
Ron,
okay, go ahead.
when we worked at Fox, you and I did his very first game against Cleveland.
Against
And
Cleveland.
and I was blown away by him in that game.
Yeah, I remember
he played so well, and my opinion of him's never changed. I think he's an exceptional player.
I remember that. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you've got Thielen there. You've got Jefferson. You've got some weapons there. You got a run game and Cook, and they've always been able to make things work defensively. So that'll be the flip side of that one. But yeah, I kind of like this move. I want to see where this goes. The Saints, Dennis Allen, he replaces Sean Payton. His boss basically, because Allen was a defensive coordinator down there. So what do you think?
Well, I just assumed that was going to happen when Sean stepped away.
Yeah.
I assumed that that's what they would do, just elevate him. I'm not sure why Mickey Loomis didn't do that, but nonetheless, you knew that was going to happen. He is so strong on that team down there. Players really like him. They love him there in town. The organization loves the guy. He's done really well as a defensive coordinator. It was natural. Now, Pete, I guess, is going to stay, but not as the offensive coordinator. Pete Carmichael.
Carmichael, right.
Yeah, I think he's going to stay from what I understand, and he just stepped down from the coordinator's job.
Now,
he's another favorite, by the way, down there. They love him down there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, now what happens to Peyton?
Take a year off. Yeah,
do some TV. Maybe join us on our podcast every week.
I'm sure he'll do some TV, but I think at this point, he's more or less a newlywed. He'll take some time off, and he just built a place up in Idaho. And I think that, he told me when he's down there, he looked forward to spending some more time up there. And you go so hard for so long in a job like that, you got to come up for air. And I think that's what he's doing.
Boy, Mike, I love how dialed in you are, man. You know about this place up in Idaho. You probably know what his tax rolls are up there per square foot, man. I love that.
Yeah, with his camera, it doesn't make any difference. He's got that monopoly money. He doesn't make any
monopoly money.
Makes no difference what the taxes are.
Oh, man. And the last coaching change is Brian Daboll. Daboll, the offensive coordinator in Buffalo. Boy, I've got a lot of questions about Buffalo staff right now, defensively and offensively, coming after that last game against Kansas City.
Yeah, I don't know that this is a good choice for the Giants. I'm not a big Brian Daboll fan, to be honest with you. But we'll see.
Yeah. This that Buffalo team was as tuned up, talent-wise, energy-wise, as any team I've seen in the NFL. And I think I said at one point during the season, I still believe this to a degree, a Buffalo Rams Super Bowl would have been high energy. That would have been a lot of fun. But coming down toward the end, just some weird things happen in that Kansas City game. And defensively, I didn't understand what they were doing, and offensively, I didn't either.
I think it was coaching. I think he screwed it up. And I think when you go back and look at Buffalo when they played the Steelers, not a very good team. Steelers beat them. And there were 4 games like that during the season. I'm watching offense. There's just no rhythm. I just trying to figure out what he's trying to accomplish, what he's doing. And you in the fourth quarter, and you decide that you're going to establish a run in the AFC Championship game. Somebody needs to have his head examined,
Yeah. You got arguably the best quarterback, one of the best in the NFL. I mean, just having a lights out year.
Yeah, and then you put in the last
Ah.
minute or two, and he throws 3 touchdowns. Why weren't you doing that at the beginning of the fourth quarter? And
Wow.
he just got stubborn there in the fourth quarter and had 3 series where he just handed the ball off.
Yeah, I know that the tradition in Buffalo is a jump on tables pregame. Well, they had people jumping on tables for other reasons after that debacle.
So that's why I have a hard time with him. I just don't think his judgment as a play caller, maybe it's different than as a head coach. I don't know. I'm just not sold on the guy.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go back to this Super Bowl now, and I'm going to start with the Rams, and I want you to take me through your 2-week preparation. Okay, you got 2 weeks to get ready for this game. So we're going to pretend this is last week. What's the first thing you do coming back off an emotional, wonderful win in your own home stadium? Mike, you've been there. Hell, I did the trophy ceremony for you a couple times there in St. Louis. What's the first thing you do on Monday morning? And tell me how you plan out the week. How do you go about it with your coaches and then on with the players?
The Super Bowls I was involved with, they were not 2 weeks. They were just 1 week.
That was 1 week. Yeah, you're right.
So
because of 9/11.
Well, both of them were. The first one was 2. So
yeah,
we only had 1 week to prepare for both of them. So it was just a madhouse.
Mike, why was the first one? The first one, this is the one against Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
Now, why was that only a 1 week? Was that the 9/11 one? Yeah. No, you won that. No,
yeah. I don't know why. I don't know why.
What happened there? I can't remember what happened.
There was a couple of them before that were 1 week too. I don't know whether there's a conflict TV-wise with something else, or maybe the Olympics or something like that were then. I don't know. I really don't know, but we were 1 week. If I had 2 weeks, I most definitely would get them dialed in with you review the game from the last game, make your corrections. And I'd give them a couple days to let their bodies recover from the season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then take those 3 days. And then on Thursday and Friday, I'd have a Wednesday, Thursday practice.
Yeah.
With the game plan. So that gives the staff 3 or 4 days to get ready. And not finish it up, but do that and then repeat the same practices the next week with your Friday practice too.
Yeah.
That's how I do it. But I think there's about a 3 or 4 day window in there where I just give them a break there and let them recover physically. And the same time, the coaches have 3 extra days to go over all the information, South Scout, and then look at your opponent and look at the tendencies and some of the things you can do.
Yeah. Now, the second one you guys played in, I remember that was a short week because of 9/11.
Yeah.
And I think a week was either canceled in there some point or somewhere in the season, they had to adjust the schedule forward. But everyone went right from the NFC Championship game in St. Louis straight down to New Orleans.
Yeah, we did it both times. Yeah, we went on Monday. We were on a plane to the head coach goes down Monday, but all the players and wives, they leave on Monday. They're down there.
Yeah.
The coaches, we didn't go down until Tuesday night at midnight. So we spent Monday and Tuesday, those 2 days, game planning. And then we went down and had practice, met with the players Wednesday morning, practice Wednesday, same thing on Thursday. Friday did our goal line red zone stuff and then played.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then our red zone stuff and goal line stuff was always done in the stadium. And both times, obviously Tennessee and the Patriots had full knowledge of what we're doing, but what else can you do?
Yeah. No, you never know where there's a camera.
No question.
So are you a fan of this home thing? Okay, so we've seen Tampa Bay do it. They had their home stadium Super Bowl. You're in your own. I know all the obvious reasons for it, Mike, but what are some of the other benefits of it? I mean, obviously you're in your home stadium, you're in your own meeting room, all of that stuff. Is there any negative to it?
Yeah, I think the only real negative is it can become a real distraction to your players, because especially in LA, where there's just so much adulation for them right now, just keeping them focused.
Yeah.
And I think too that he'll, he's he has such a good way about him. Talking about McVay, he'll dial them in. He'll keep their attention dialed in. I
Yeah.
don't think I worry with him. I wouldn't worry about that because he's so on top of everything.
Yeah. No, you brought that up before. He's done a good job of that all season long. Uh, okay, so Cincinnati, I think is embracing this. We're the underdog. We're the people that you don't believe in. You say we can't. That makes us more, more motivated to do it. I think they're embracing that culture, that role.
Sure. I mean, everybody would. That's nobody thinks they're going to win. That's you know, poor me. They'll go out there and they'll play with reckless abandon. They will.
Yeah. Yeah. Both teams, I'm looking at a note here. Both teams overcame double-digit deficits to win the conference championship game. The Rams at one point trailed 17-7, beat the 49ers by 3. The Bengals trailed 21-3 and beat the Chiefs 27-24 in overtime. That's that lead where we thought at one point the Chiefs were just going to blow them out of the stadium.
I still, to this day, don't understand what happened to Mahomes in the second half of that game.
Yeah, I don't either.
How he could hold the ball and miss so many throws.
Yeah.
It was just so unlike him,
Yeah. What is the biggest danger for each quarterback in a game like this? What's the worst thing that can happen, and what's the best thing that can happen?
Well, they'll both be so doggone nervous. They're going to overthrow guys that are wide open. You saw that in the championship game.
Yep.
They'll just miss guys that they normally wouldn't miss.
Yeah.
And that's why, with Kirk, what we did, we opened up with a slant right away. You can't miss that. And of course, you got tipped. You got batted away.
What'd you say? You can't miss that.
You can't miss a slant now.
And then it got tipped.
He got batted away. So I was going to give him something real easy. We shifted to a formation that put Marshall on the linebacker one-on-one.
Oh,
and he caught that ball, he might have gone 60 with it.
Oh, Lord. And a DN or somebody or tackle. Yeah, DN tipped it, didn't he? Or
Kerr was so nervous. He took 3 steps, but he only went about this far in his 3 steps. He didn't get away from the line at all, And a slant is the 3-step drop for a slant is different than for a hitch. A hitch, because you're throwing it all the way outside, it's a quick 3 because you got to throw it a long way. That says we call a stretch 3 on a slant, where your steps are bigger because it's going to be over some hands there, so you want to get away a little bit, And he just quickened it up a little too quick.
Yeah, yeah. But the Burrow kid seems so silky smooth and cool. I haven't seen a guy this cool in a long time. Somebody said, I can't remember what it was. Somebody said he's Joe Namath.
Yeah, no, that's been talked about a lot. The thing about him is he's been in this kind of game before. Yeah, national championship. He's been there. He's had all the glitz and glamour. He's had all that attention on him and all that stuff before. He's weathered through that. And come through it and play exceptionally well. So I think he's going to play the game of his life. I really do. Now Stafford, on the other hand, remember when he doesn't play well, they don't win.
That's true.
If he just plays okay, they don't win.
That's interesting. He's got to play well.
Yes,
not
really
just
well.
Okay. Well, yeah. And again, now, last week, kid for the 49ers, Tart, dropped a big interception. And I don't know if the 49ers would have won the game, but boy, that would have made it a lot harder on the Rams. And now you're not going to get away with that in this game.
And that throw was ugly.
Bad deal.
That was underthrown by 10 yards, and I just think under pressure, he's not very good.
Yeah.
Burrow under pressure is exceptional.
Yeah.
Stafford gets guys around his feet. He is panicking, just jerks the ball out there a little bit. And that's something he's got to work through.
Yeah. Now, defensively, Cincinnati's got a couple guys. Their secondary isn't bad. I like their secondary. They've got some guys that can find the ball back there.
I like
safety. Yeah. They'll get beat on some things now. They'll in the perimeter and the corner wise, they'll get beat on some things. But hey, that's part of the game, and you're playing against world-class athletes. And then they've got a guy in Trey Hendrickson that will rush the quarterback, and a couple big fat ones inside, as we say, that will, that can stop up the run a little bit too.
Yeah, you need a couple belly bumpers like that,
Belly bumpers.
and that's something that, of course, the Rams have that Robinson Gaines inside, and so if you put Donald Gaines and Robinson inside, and then put the two Russians outside, that front five would destroy that offensive line, I think.
Oh boy, yeah. And now here's something for people to watch. That being said, watch this game very closely early, because if Cincinnati finds a way to neutralize the Rams pass rush and or Aaron Donald, whether they do it by getting out to a lead, whether they do it by field position, whatever it is, this game could change, because that's exactly how the Bengals got to this point.
Well, yeah, and the Rams are not nearly as good playing from behind. They just haven't been. Now
They're not that
in
team.
the playoffs, but they're just not built like that. I do think that what they'll do, it's like they did in the against Kansas City, they'll try to get the ball out real quick.
Yeah.
Cincinnati will get the ball out real quick and try and neutralize that to some extent. If they're going to play a lot of man, then I think Cincinnati's going to have a big day.
Yeah. How does each coach handle the Super Bowl pressure? I know how McVay's going to handle it. This is his second time through, so he's going to know what to do and not to do.
I think, I wondered that about myself. I think it's all, you're looking at everything standing on the sideline. You're out there for 30 minutes instead of 10 minutes on the sideline. So you're wandering around and the ball gets kicked off and boom, it's just like you're the opener of the season, everything is just, you don't hear anything, you don't see anything but the game.
Yeah. What's the most nerve-wracking part of a Super Bowl?
Standing on the sideline waiting for the kickoff.
Is it before or after the national anthem?
And then having to listen to so many different and awful renditions of the national anthem,
Oh, that's bad.
I've been through a couple that I really butchered it. I didn't even recognize it, You
could really hear that, huh?
Yeah.
As you're getting ready for the game.
Well, I'm sitting there watching them and listening to some of them. They get this jazz thing to them, It didn't even sound like the national anthem.
Yeah.
And we had a guy at the Rams, he's in the Navy, and he could flat sing, buddy. And he had such a strong, great voice. When he sang, the fans there went nuts.
I know who you're talking about. Bryce.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's
yeah,
his,
yeah.
Oh, gosh, I can't remember his name. Okay.
He just knocked it
linebacker.
out. Yeah. He just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah. That's right. I remember that. He was a Navy guy. Did his commitment during the off season or something, worked it, man. That was impressive.
He killed it. Yeah, he killed it.
Yeah. How's this? Well, Zach Taylor, former Ram staff coach. How's he going to handle this one? This is his first as a head coach, I should say.
Well, I think he'll do fine with it. Just like in the nerve-wracking deal is trying to get into the Super Bowl, win the NFC Championship game, and he did a great job with that. And I think that prepares you for this. It really does.
Yeah. You say that's more nerve-wracking than the game.
It was for me. I said that to Madden. He ridiculed me on TV about that comment. But the Super Bowl, everybody that is lined up to play the Super Bowl, you don't need to give them a pep talk. I promise you.
Right.
The NFC Championship game, getting there is such a big deal. It's so hard to get there. So when you're there, you just try and take advantage of it.
Yeah. Give me your picks here as we wrap this thing up. What do you like? Who do you like?
Yeah, I think the Rams is just so overwhelming talent-wise, which is probably why Cincinnati will win.
What'd you say? Rams are so overwhelming talent-wise. This is why Cincinnati will win. Yeah.
I think that kind of has a tendency. I think the big deal is of course the matchups, and the big matchup is that defensive front for the Rams and the offensive line for Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I think what Cincinnati will have to do is, and of course last week they did fine with it.
Yeah.
But they'll use a tight end inside to chip in the block, and they'll keep 6 guys in to block. They'll chip the back on the way out, and those things. I do think though, it depends on how creative the Rams are with their defensive front. If they line up and play down 4, it's going to be a heck of a game then.
So I'm looking at this Cincinnati offensive line. They've got 1 first-round pick, and he's the left tackle, Jonah Williams. Then you've got Quentin Spain, left guard, right guard, Hakeem Adeniji, a 6th-round pick, and a free agent. Spain is a free agent. Your center, Trey Hopkins, is a free agent brought in 2014. And your right tackle, Isaiah Prince, picked up on waivers from Miami. And I'm trying to remember what game it was. Must have been the Raider game.
Yeah,
Mike,
they beat him up.
Oh my god!
And they didn't help him.
It looked like
there might be a fight in the locker room to line up against him.
It looked like guys were playing duck, goose.
Yeah.
They were just, oh man. It
so
was
unbelievable. I think what they'll do, and they'll expect Chase to bring coverage from Ramsey. I'm sure Ramsey will flop over on Chase, but it's kind of hanging it out there a little bit. Let him move Donald around and find the weakest link in that offensive line. Just let him wear him out. Yeah,
and to your point, they are starting to move people around a little bit more. They're moving Donald around a little bit more, and they're running a couple more games. You've been saying that since mid-season. They need to start running stunts and twists and loops and things like that.
And Gaines is a shade on the center. He'll kill that center. The center's not a very big guy.
Yeah,
he's not a very strong guy. So, but they did well last week. They really did. I think they only gave up a sack, didn't they, last week?
Yeah, they did better. They did a lot better, but that's the quarterback. The quarterback is just so efficient.
So it really kind of comes down to what they do and how they approach it. What they can't do is end up with a lot of deep drop stuff unless it's a hard play action kind of a deal.
Yeah.
They got to run at those ends. They have to. You got to run power football at those ends.
I'll tell you what.
Make them play football, yeah.
Make them play football. I'll tell you what can give them problems now. If the Rams, as you say, going back to this team, if they get impatient, T. Higgins has burned every team he's played against in the playoffs 1 or 2 times with something.
Well, that's why I say Cam Akers and T. Higgins are the two whole cards, so to speak, in this game. Those 2 guys are the X factors in terms of win a game.
Yeah.
I think each team needs to have their particular player have a great game. Akers got to have a great game, and T. Higgins have a great game.
And I don't think C.J. Uzomah is going to make it. I don't think he's going to be.
No, but I know. But on the other side of Ramsey, they won't hold up against Higgins and his.
No, that's right. That's what. See, there's a weakness in the Rams that gets covered up by that front 7, and particularly the work of Aaron Donald. They've got some holes in that secondary. And I think Eric Weddle came in there, and Eric Weddle has stabilized the ship from a communication standpoint. Remember how much bickering was going on back there?
Well, they couldn't adjust any formations.
They couldn't adjust. You're right. And guys throwing punches at each other. Now, if the Rams get stunned early, to your point about the star factor, that's going to work against them. That could be a problem.
I just think it's too important to him. It's like Donald at the end of the NFC Championship. He pulled the defense together and talked to him. Then he makes the play.
Yeah.
So he backed his words up. And
yeah.
Watching it. It's such a weird team to watch because if the quarterback's not playing well defensively, they don't play very well. If they play well, the defense plays lights out. Have you noticed that?
I noticed that. No, I noticed that as soon as they see, it's almost like they're watching to see, well, what's this guy going to do to us today? Are you going to run this offense? Seriously, that's because as soon as you let them go down the field and get 10 points, you might as well just walk out of the building because that defense is going to destroy you. But if they're behind 10 or 7 and the quarterback's looking sketchy, they'll take a knee. I've seen it.
I do think that if Cincinnati will formation them, it'll make it hard for them.
Oh boy. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, we'll see. This is why they play it. Should be a good one. We left out Nathaniel Hackett going to Denver, coming from Green Bay as the OC. So he's going there to Denver, and they say goodbye to Fangio, and boy, the Bronco organization. My goodness. we've got some podcast listeners out there. Our man Keenan, I want to throw a shout out to him. I know he's a big Bronco fan, but boy, they've got to get their organization right up top. They went through the legal issues, and then the sale or no sale of the team, and the family members bickering back and forth. So they've got it starts up there and then works itself down to the bottom.
I just don't know enough about him to know whether he's any good or not, to be honest with you. Because
Yeah.
I think LaFleur had a lot to do with the play selection there. So who knows? Who knows? They identify him because he stand behind him and all that stuff. Who knows how? They're going to find out.
Yeah, they got some talent in a couple places, but they're gonna have to figure it out. I think they got to get the quarterback thing figured out too. That doesn't seem like it's solidified in any one way or shape or form. So
Ron, I want the Rams to win. I really do. I got a feeling that Cincinnati's going to beat them.
Oh, I don't like, man, your feelings, Mike. Well, every time you have a feeling, it usually happens.
It kind of happens. Remember when we were doing the games together at Fox?
Yeah.
Did those 8 games, and we had this discussion before every game. I was 8-0 in the predictions. So the director, did you see that the director, he would go bet after the 4th one. He waited for it, then he was out of there, and he was laying money on the game.
Yeah, I know that.
Remember
Right. I
he
remember
won
that.
He won some, but I was 8-0.
Oh gosh, yeah, those guys, man. Yeah, I was wondering why guys kept asking those questions. Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a telecast. Yeah. We'll see what anything can happen. No. I need to know. Well, why do you need to know so bad? You don't have your mortgage on this game.
Well, I was pretty firm in the conviction that they were going to win.
Yeah.
I think T. Higgins is just going to get off. I think he's going to have the hell of a game.
Yeah. Well, I tend to agree with that. However, I would be shocked if the Rams lose this, because this is an NFL dream come true.
Yeah, it is.
And these make dreams come true too, that money. And boy, it just seems like the Hollywood script is already written. I'm looking out the window here. It's 75 degrees. Every star on the planet is here. They had the championship game here. Now the Super Bowl. Oh my gosh. It's just, I'm going to cry here. It's just so, perfect.
Like I said, I want them to win. I really do want them to win. I think McVay's done a great job, but
as you say though, this game is, and like Dad used to always say, now remember, that team on the other side is here for a reason. They didn't just take a wrong turn, and get off in the wrong exit.
They're not the Senators, right? They're not the Washington Senators.
Right. They're here for a reason. So, all right, Mike, we'll see, man. We'll be back here next week to chop it all up and explain what happened to who and how it happened.
Okay, Ronnie.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later.